Namaskar, uh, my dear friends. This is Professor Aman Agarwal from Indian Institute of Finance, and we will be now beginning in another 2 minutes' time. Before we begin, I thought I should introduce what we have in store for you and then move on. Uh, we are having today, as you can see, a young bright girl in my program on the essence of life and growth. Zoya has been my student. She is currently an entrepreneur from 2019 onwards, and she is a senior research analyst from 2018-19 at Ernst & Young. She was senior associate with Moody's between 2015-18, and she was senior dispute analyst between 2013-15 at American Express, immediately after finishing her MBF program at the Indian Institute of Finance. She is now based in the UAE, happily married recently into a new chapter of her life, and moved into a frame of new life and moved to UAE, based out of Abu Dhabi. Before we begin the webinar, I would like to say that we are observing all the norms as outlined by the Ministry of Home Affairs for conducting Zoom meetings on a secure platform, and hence we have not fortunately seen any Zoom bombing in the last 1.5 months. I'm happy to share that we have organized over 74 webinars in the last 1.5 months. Now, almost all webinars have been free. All workshops we have now started are also free. The virtual training programs are the only ones which are priced. As you can see here, we have a series of webinars which are scheduled. One is going to be there tomorrow on Life with Corona, Business, Health and Government, with the Honorable Governor, Lieutenant Governor Kiran Bedi ji, to be giving the opening address. I'm still awaiting her formal confirmation, although I did get some confirmation, but I'm still awaiting a formal confirmation. The rest of the experts are confirmed. The former MD of Standard & Poor's from Singapore, and Professor Deepak Vora, who is a diplomat, Blossom Kocher, who is MD of the Blossom Kocher Group and another group, Mohammad Halim Khan Sahab, who is former Secretary Government of India, Osa, who is the president of the Swedish Africa Chamber, Chandrakant Pandav, who is with All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Dr. Mahesh Sharma, who is with the university in Hungary now, looking after research and innovation, Professor Saurabh Agarwal. Then we have training programs, and then we have these following seminars arranged for you on the 5th, the 6th, the 12th, the 13th, and 19th and 20th, which are on different topics on the right-hand side. And then we have on 5th, on Friday, also Shantanu Guhare, who is going to speak on the same essence of life. As I said, tomorrow we have this webinar on Life with Corona, Business, Health and Government, giving different perspectives. The registrations have already started, and you're welcome to register if you want to. The details are in the right corner where you can see in the yellow box. The message would be there in the webinar group. This is what we held yesterday. We have uploaded the video recording of the 3-hour program we had yesterday on how to research and publish, and everyone is welcome to look at it for free of cost. These are some of our experts who have come in the last 1.5 months and spoken, which include people from all walks of life, including a Hollywood actress, a British Miss Britain, then defense personnel. We have had models, we have had journalists, classical dancers, industry people, chambers heads, anchors, celebrities, and professors, amongst most of them, and some of our students who are leading various industries. As I said, today we have this bright young girl, Mrs. Zoya Shahid from the UAE, and I will be moving on to her in just a second before we open the house. The videos and audios of everyone would be kept silent. You're requested to kindly keep them off, else the cyber team head, who is my co-host, will take you off the room. She is a young and bright girl, an enterprising girl, and I'm very happy with her progress, not because she has been working with some of the world-class institutions, as you can see from the program, the outlay which is given here about her. We talks about where she all has worked. But more than that is the zeal of her and a desire of her to work and contribute. She has been a bright young girl at the institute, although as she would know, and most of my other students will know, we have been fairly very hard on most of our students and trying to keep them in discipline. But she and almost all others have done good. I now go to Zoya. Zoya, welcome to the platform. Thank you for joining in. I'm just going to unmute you so that you can start. We can, yes, you are unmuted, so you can start speaking. It's a pleasure to welcome my students here on the platform to speak on the essence of life. As I told you when I spoke, discussed with you and connected with you a few days back, we are trying to bring in positivity in life, the essence of life and growth. We are not talking of negative aspects. We are not talking of Corona or COVID or the difficult situations, but we are talking of how does that beautiful light spur, like a plant in a desert, as it is shown in large number of movies, as you are blossoming with your new life in an area which you have not known, although visited as a tourist, but not known, as you were just mentioning a few minutes back, that home is home. Certainly, home is home,
Yes, sir.
but then you need to blossom like you blossom always. So I now go on to you. But before I begin with my interview, Zoya, I would like you to do a small brief introduction of your own self as a young girl who was 5, 6, 7 years of age in school, then a girl who became a teen, then a girl who went to college, then a girl who came to our institute, and then she started a working life. Explaining how have you seen life perspectives of your own self change in these phases of life? Because I personally feel that till the age of 4 or 5, you don't know exactly what you're doing. You are intelligent, you remember, but then you don't recall. But when you grow a little elder, maybe 6, 5, 6 and beyond, you start remembering, you start seeing life in different perspectives and colors. So I want you to share, to begin with, what is that life perspective you saw change in your own self? And how did you see the change in growth take place in your own self when these phases of life changed for you, and now that you have opened a new chapter of your life a couple of months back? To
Right.
you, Zoya.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. My name is Zoya Shahid, and like sir said, I have been his student, and I have been born and brought up in Delhi itself. I did my schooling from a convent in Old Delhi, which is called Presentation Convent. Then, in my senior year of school, in class 9, I moved to Kendriya Vidyalaya R.K. Puram, where I did my last 4 years of schooling. But I had this opportunity in class 11 to go to the United States of America as a cultural ambassador of India. I was in Pennsylvania representing India for a period of close to a year, and I did my class 11 from there itself. And it was an entirely different experience from our schooling in India. So we had basketball as a subject in US, and our level of studies were definitely much higher than that in the US. So what we study here in grade 6, 7, 8 was basic chemistry for us there. And then what we studied in class 9 was advanced chemistry for them. So it was pretty much, in terms of academics, it was easier for us to cope with their curriculum. And we were a total of around 27 students who went from across India. And I was based in Pennsylvania with a foster family. And because I have an elder sister here, I was given an elder sister there also, and I had no brother. So I stayed with them. I have never really worked at my house in Delhi, and my parents were very uh, kind to me that they never really made me do household work. But once I was in the US, there are no maids there. There's nobody there. So I had to do the vacuuming. I had to do cleaning of dishes. I had to do everything that is required to clean a house, of course, with my sister. But then it was entirely different for me. Earlier, in the first few months, I was not able to adjust properly because everything was different. The weather was different. The people were different. The accent was different, most importantly. But then once I started going to school, we made friends. It got okay, but I still miss my family back home because I have never really been away from them for a period of so long. So after that, once I came back, it was my senior year, 12th. So I had this option of choosing science or choosing commerce. So I was very clear after looking at my older sister here that I don't want to do chemistry, physics, maths. So I took up commerce with maths, but I had no basics because the accounting system in US is completely different from what we follow here. So I had to work a lot. I had no basics of accounting, no basics of economics. I had nothing. So I got a home tutor. My teachers at school were very supportive. They taught me, and by the end of October in my 12th, I had already completed my entire syllabus because my mom is a teacher and she wanted me to be at the top always. So then I did all my 12th exams, I gave them. But somehow I wanted to go into the North Campus of the Delhi University, but I did not get through for BCom honors at least. I was getting English honors and other courses, but I did not want to compromise on my course. So I took up BCom honors and I joined Zakir Hussain College of Delhi University. And then I completed my graduation from there. After doing that, I really felt that it does not really make a difference as to what college you go to, because my teachers at Zakir Hussain were amazing and they were among the best of the university. So after those 3 years, I had to have a 60% because I knew that I could not sit for placement if I do not have a 60% throughout in India. So then I started looking for MBA institutes and I knew that I do not want to leave Delhi again. So I had very limited options in Delhi, Noida, Delhi NCR, everything. So, and I was pretty sure that I don't want to go to Amity because Amity does not have a very good reputation in terms of a lot of things. So then I chose this college, Indian Institute of Finance. Once we came here, it was entirely different from our image that we have of a college, that we will be roaming around, we'll not be asked to sit in classes, we will be bunking classes. So it was very different here. Firstly, we had to wear a sari, which was very difficult for me because we came from 30 kilometers and then we were rushing to reach in time and we had to wear a sari for 2 days. But then later, when we actually joined the corporate, we understood the importance of wearing formals and we understood the importance that JD sir told us that we had to sit in college from 9 to 5 because he was making us habitual to this habit of being able to sit for a period of 9 hours. So once we got into the corporate, it was very easy for us to actually sit and work because compared to other people from other institutes, because they were not able to sit for such a long period because they had no habit to do so. So once I got into the corporate, American Express, I joined first, and my profile there was of a senior disputes analyst. It was somehow that of a back-end profile. It was a little bit related to finance, but not completely. So that is why I decided that I should, irrespective of the company culture, which was amazing, I thought I should not compromise on my profile, and I decided to switch to a company which is doing work which I should be doing ideally. Then I moved to Moody's Analytics, and this was also Gurgaon. And I started working there. I had no research experience per se, but after I started working, I got into secondary research. I did a lot of company profiles. I did a lot of industry research. I worked there for around 2.5 years, 2.5 years, more than that. And so yeah, then after that I thought that it is time for a switch because 2.5 3 years is a good time for a switch. So I moved to Ernst & Young, which is also Gurgaon. And then I worked there for around 6 months, EY. And then that is when my family started telling me that you have to get married. They were telling me that for the last couple of years, but they were not really serious about it, so we let it go. But after that, they told me that 2019 is the year that I'm going to get married. So I started working on a project on a partnership basis in late 2018. So I partnered with a company and I built the strategic distribution channel for them in order to maximize their profit. So once my project started doing well, I thought that I should leave corporate and then move to my business. So once my business had already replaced my salary, um, that's when I took the decision of quitting corporate, because my family was very particular that you would not be able to, you should not quit your job until and unless you're sure of what you're doing. So once I got sure, I quit in April 2019. And since then, I have been doing this project that I'm doing. And because it's e-commerce, I can easily do it from here also. And yeah, so that's about it. And then in late 2019, I got married. So now I've moved to UAE. I'm staying here in Abu Dhabi. And in terms of growth, if I talk about myself, um, as a child, I was very stubborn, very, very stubborn. But as I grew, I understood that I have to, because I was living with my sister, I did not really want to share my things with her. I was of those sorts that I was very selfish. I did not want to do a lot of things. And so once I got to know, as I kept growing older, especially when I went to the US, that's the year I learned the most. I think everything was entirely different. My mom and dad made me work there. I made different kinds of friends. I stayed with people. I stayed in a bunk bed. So all those things were new for me. I think that is the year that I saw the maximum growth for myself in terms of personality. And since then, I have always been, I think I have been blessed by a very good circle in terms of teachers, in terms of friends, in terms of family, who've always been very supportive. So I think other than that, my journey has been very easy if I look at it, if I compare it with everybody. Thank God. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Zoya, for that brief introduction. I would still also like you to speak about, did you see a change in your phase of looking at life? What were your expectations from life? From when you were a child, or when you were in the US, or when you were in India studying at the institute, or even after that when you were working and earning a handsome, and now that you're married, you know, these perceptions of interest or what you want from life changes. Could you share some of those anecdotes as well from your life as to how have they changed?
Sure. I have always been a hardcore Shah Rukh Khan fan. So I always thought that life would be like a fairy tale in terms of everything. But after school, when we moved to college, that's when I realized that studies do not get over after we're done with schooling. In college, we have to work as hard. And in terms of corporate, I got to know that big brands, there is a lot of cutthroat competition. And once I started working, I got to know that there is not just one right way of doing one thing. Because I was very black and white in terms of a person. I never really thought that gray could be right. So once I got into corporates, I started being with a lot of other people who were not my friends. I got to know that there are more than one right ways of doing one thing. So that's one thing that I've really learned in life, that you have to respect other people's opinions. And most of the time, I got to know other people's opinions, and they were much better ways of doing things than I were doing them myself. So I think that's one thing that I have taken from life. And other than that, I think I was not very grateful in terms of things that I was doing earlier. I thought it was okay to have, I took a lot of things for granted. But later, I realized that this is not the right thing to do. And this is just after I've been married that I realized that I can't really take things for granted. I took my mom's cooking for granted. My dad was always after my life, ki, have this, eat this, do this. So all of these things, I think as life goes on, every day you have to learn something new. So and nowadays I'm learning to do stuff here. I'm doing all the housework because there are no maids here also. So yeah.
Thank you for that insight. For the benefit of all the participants, I must let you know that all my webinars on the essence of life have people with about 45 years plus experience. But then I structurally have 2 to 3 people every month who are young people, who are people who have not more than 3, 4, 5 years of, or maybe maximum 10 years of experience, primarily to give a 360-degree review of the perspective of life. And now I begin with my questions which I had in mind. Zoya, for you, what are those key factors which you feel are essential for life and growth?
Okay. So I think, sir, there are two factors that are completely essential for life and growth. Number one would be learning, because I think every phase of our life requires us to have a different kind of learning. So as infants, we were taught how to smile, laugh, crawl, walk, talk. So then as children, we started how to read, how to ride a bike, how to play games, how we make friends, we learn how to share when we're children. So then we grow up to be adults, we learn how to compromise, we learn how to live with others, then we learn how to take responsibility for our actions, and we learn that a lot of things that are happening are not really in our control. So for if I talk about myself right now, I'm learning a lot of patience while living here, because we're seeing such times that we've never really witnessed before, and I am very comfortable staying at home otherwise. I am okay, but right now that we're not allowed to go out, so I really want to go out more than I used to. So that is something that I'm learning in myself, that I have to be very patient. And then other than that, I think if I talk about contentment, so I have seen myself that in my journey in the corporate, I used to look very forward. I was looking at the last milestone that I had in mind, that I want to retire before 45. So if I was looking at that, I really missed the small milestones that I had across the way. So when I look at it, I think that we really need to be content with whatever we have right now. It's not bad to be ambitious. It's very good to be ambitious. But I think while working, sometimes we miss the sight of whatever we are achieving along the way. So we really need to be very thankful for that, whatever we are already doing. And we need to appreciate life as it is, because we did not appreciate the normal times that we had, and now we are in this. So now we want that time back. So I think now that once we will have that normal time back, we will never really take anything else for granted. So I think learning and contentment are the two most important things in life.
True. There is this thing which I read: invest in yourself to induce growth and happy living. How much do you believe in this? And could you quote some example from your life which can reflect on this?
So I think it is very important to invest in ourselves, because while working in the corporate, I realized that only skill will not take you anywhere. You have to learn a lot in terms of skill every day, because technology is moving so fast. If we talk about ourselves, our databases were changing every day. We got to know of new and better ways of doing things. And if we were outdated, you were in a private sector, you will probably be kicked out. So I got to know that you have to learn how to talk. You have to learn how to portray your work, more importantly, just than your skill. And I think reading continuously keeps you updated. And that's one thing that I have seen people struggling with. I also myself did not find a lot of time in corporate while working, because there was no time. I was staying in Delhi, central Delhi. I had a 2-hour commute one side. So I understand it was very difficult for us to invest anything in learning, or in ourselves in just general. So over the weekend, we were just too tired to do anything. And later realized that I started taking up free courses, just reading books about self help, self development. So I think all of that is very important. Yeah.
There is a Rig Veda saying which goes, I'll read out that in English, which says basically, if you want to enjoy the fruits of happiness in life, take up systemic planting of trees. How do we connect this to human capital and the essence of life and growth, in your opinion?
So I think, so everything in life has to be very systematically done. Now that I look back, I think because I had a strict parent in terms of my mom, that is why my life was pretty systematic in terms of how I was doing things. But other than that, if I look at other people, I get to know that if you do not really have a plan, not achieving the plan is okay, but not having a plan in the first place is a problem. So I think you need to have your steps focused towards something, irrespective of whether you're achieving it or not, achieving it on time or achieving it later. But we really need to do things systematically in order for them to at least lead to something. So if I was looking at myself, I joined American Express just because of the brand. But then later I got to know that the profile did not really match with whatever I should be doing as an MBA in finance. That's why I decided that I should quit this and move to a profile which is much suited for my CV, which I should be ideally doing as an MBA in finance. So that's when I moved to Moody's. I got to know that, yeah, this is the kind of work I should be doing. This is the kind of work that CAs are doing. So everything um, falls back to that point, that you have to keep on seeing what is happening in the industry, what is happening around you. And according to that, you have to make changes in whatever you're doing systematically to grow and reach a particular point in life.
True. I also read that do not go through life, grow through life.
Right.
How do you see that?
So growing through life, I would definitely say that I never thought I would do. I always wanted to be a lawyer in the first place. So my parents were really not in the favor of of me doing law, because they thought that I would not be able to do well as a lawyer. So then I got to know that okay, I thought then I think let's do whatever they're telling me to do. Then I got BCom honors. Then I thought that I have to excel in everything that I do, because if I stay a mediocre, it's never really good enough. So that's when I thought that um, aside from doing BCom honors, I should also be doing a lot of other things. I started investing in myself in terms of reading, in terms of a lot of other things. So, and I made friends who were doing well in other fields of life also. So I got to know what was happening, and I grew along with whatever everybody else was doing. It was not just MBA, it was not just BCom for me, it was a lot of other industries that I was becoming a part of, because all of my circle was that way. I was looking at people, I was helping a lot of people in my juniors. I was helping a lot of things. In terms of studies, I think I was okay. And other than that, growth in college life and other than that is very limited. But once you start working, that's when you can really grow. And if I talk about my growth, then I started doing a lot of work outside of business hours for myself. I did a lot of Excel training. I did a lot of PPT training, so that I can be more efficient at my work. So I think growth is very relative to whatever or wherever we are in life, but I think it is very essential at the end of the day.
See, we live in times of uncertainty, and when I look at history, whether recent history or even historic history, there is not a time when one can say that there is certainty. But then we always want certainty in uncertainty. How do you, as an analyst, now induce that certainty in that uncertainty in your own lifestyle?
Sir, I think I really am a positive person in general. I really do not want to look at things which might go wrong. So I understand that there is no certainty. There is no tomorrow. You can't really be sure of a tomorrow also. But I really look for the positive in everything. I keep on reading a lot of positive quotes. I do not listen to a lot of news once it's like really negative. And so I think mostly I try to look at the positives in life, so my mind does not go to uncertainty to a lot of extent, because other than that there is a lot of negative happening anyway. So I really try to not focus on the negative, and that's how I just try to look at the certain part and move forward.
You mentioned when you were giving your introduction about the different influences you had. You had the Indian influence, then you had the American influence, and the foster parents you had, and the sister you had then the shadow of your sister, then you had your parents back, and then recently you mentioned before we began that how much you miss your home here in Delhi.
Yeah.
Although when we look at environment and facilities and the sparklingness in the UAE is much more than what we ever see in India. But even then you miss home, as they say, home sweet home. But then, and now you are in this cozy environment of your new life, wedded life with your husband. How do you think there is an influence of whom do you are with and the kind of aura you bring along yourself? Or is it just that you need to live that moment?
No, sir. I think it's a lot of influence from where you're coming is a very big influence on you. And even living here, I get to see a lot of Indians because UAE is home to a lot of Indians. So I really get to see a lot of different things that are happening around. And because of my parents, I think I look at a lot of things in life at a very positive light because I've always seen my mom working. I've always seen her also managing home at the same time. So I know that it is very essential and it is normal for a female to do both things, and it is actually required out of a female to at least do some part of household chores also. So I think it has been a very positive influence, and now that I'm living alone, I get to know that what all my parents have done for me, because once I was living with them, I did not really get to know what I was capable of. Now that I'm living alone, I know I can do all these things on my own. So I think and especially my foster family back in the US, I think those people are the ones who actually taught me a lot of things. I did not know how to buy vegetables. I did not know how to buy fruits. And I'd go on my own and do all these things myself. I did not do it back in Delhi, but now I'm doing it because it is required out of me. So I think we really do not know what we're capable of and what we will be able to do until that's the only option that we have. And that's the problem here because my husband is very supportive, but there are a lot of things that he wants me to do and he wants me to take initiative in order to learn. So I keep on doing it and I'm getting there. So I think influence is a very big thing in where we actually end up. Yeah.
You see, as a young girl who has 70 years ahead of her life, you have 70 years to look forward to. And I hope you do that. How do you go about measuring happiness? And then
Yeah.
first measuring happiness and then celebrating life.
So I think firstly measuring happiness, I just whenever I'm sad, I actually think over the reason and I give myself a time frame that I am going to be sad for this thing for 2 days, 3 days. After that, I'm going to get over it. And if I'm really, really sad, I look at my parents, and if they're happy, I end up becoming happy. Now my husband is also a parameter. When I look at happy, I am happy, right? So I measure happiness by looking at people who are very close to me, and I look at them and I look how my relationships are with them. If I am giving them enough time, if I'm giving them enough effort, and if all of my relationships are happy, I think that's my measure of happiness, that I am in a happy place. I'm surrounded by people who will protect me no matter what. And yeah, I think that's my measure of happiness, by looking at the kind and quality of relationships that I have.
How do you see life and growth shaping up in the next 6 months to a year? You have been again an analyst. You have been analyzing for companies. Now you have been an entrepreneur. And as I said, entrepreneurs are people who take risks. They don't know their next day. They don't know their next minute if they will be earning a penny or not. So that kind of an uncertainty in life is there, and you have to strive in it. So you have been able to zeal through that, and you took a conscious decision of first balancing it out and then moving into the sea of being an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, as a young budding girl, as a person who has work, who has family, who has a completely new destination to look at, a new world where you don't know anybody as such. You may see familiar faces, but you do not know anybody. How do you see the next 6 months to a year?
So if I talk like an entrepreneur, I think the most important thing right now is is to maintain the existing customers that we have, because getting new customers is going to be very tough for the coming 6 months, or at least 6 months. We have to concentrate on whatever customer base we have, and we have to retain them, if I talk like an entrepreneur. But if I talk about life in general, I think for me, traveling back home is of foremost importance right now. So I think traveling by air is not going to be the same for, I don't know, as far as I can see, because the number of flights is not going to be the same. And I was just reading an article the other day where the two leading airlines of UAE, which are Etihad and Emirates, they've said that around 85% of the airlines might be at the risk of solvency by the end of 2020. So I think we might not be able to travel by air like we did for at least a year. And other than that, I think our hygiene habits are not going to be the same, because handshakes were very normal post this COVID-19. But I think even after the risk of infection goes away, it's not going to be as prevalent as it was. There is going to be frequent hand washing. We will wear a face mask going out of the house. And yeah, I think that is one thing. And the last thing is our food habits. I think our food habits have changed, and a lot of us, including me, were ordering from outside earlier, which I think we've come down to once a week now here in UAE, if we talk about me and my husband. So I think a lot of people, because they have a lot of time at hand, they really are trying to eat healthy and are trying to not eat from outside. So I think that is one thing which will continue, or at least the ordering in of food from outside is going to see a decline for some time, I think, because of hygiene reasons or because of not being sure of a lot of things. I think, yeah.
What's your success mantra for your growth?
Okay, so if I talk about success mantra, I have always looked up to Shah Rukh Khan. He has always been my idol. So if I look at him, I just feel that plain simple hard work is what is going to get us to success. Because if we talk about anything in life, be it fitness, be it relationships, be it anything else, if we're not where we want to be, we just can work harder and make it happen. We can try to make it happen. So I think working harder is always um, an option. No matter how hard we're working, we can always try more. So for success, I think working hard is the only thing that can lead us to it, I think.
You see, India is a young country, and the average age being about 28 years of age. And you're a young girl, part of that young India. You may be based in the US, but then, as you said, you're working for India, your company is based out of India, and then you still want to come back, even if the flights are not there. I hope you decide to take a second honeymoon going by the ship and coming through Kerala or Andaman or the three ports we have, in Gujarat and other places, and decide to take that up if the flights don't work. But in any case, you have seen India. You are living India in your heart, with the people, your friend circles, everyone around.
Definitely.
How do you see India shaping up in the next 6 months to a year? Now that you're outside and you get that bird's eye view of looking at it from an outsider, as well as being an insider, knowing what India is all about.
Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing that I look at from here, once I look at India, is that India has a huge problem of population. That is why we have a problem of controlling anything that is just a pandemic, an epidemic, anything. And I think a lot of things in India are really not regulated. And based on that, I can say, because if I look at UAE, for example, I know that if something is implemented here, people are afraid of the law. People will really have to abide by it, because they will see serious consequences if they don't. But if I look at India, because I have been in India, I know people do not take law very seriously. And once you're asked not to do something in India, that's when you will definitely go ahead and do it. I have also faced this, that if somebody tells you not to do something, you have more of the motivation to end up doing it. So I think that problem is there in India. Other than that, if I see Indian economy, I think we should be able to survive this, but I am not very sure as to what extent the businesses, a lot of startups, I was reading the other day, a lot of startups in India have already gone bankrupt, they've already closed down. And so I think India is going to see a very challenging period for the next 6 months to 1 year, because we do not have the infrastructure in terms of supporting the population. And there are a lot of people who are outside of homes who are trying to go back homes. There's not a lot of testing going on. So I think it's going to be a very tough time for India until and unless a vaccine is developed. And in terms of businesses, most of the businesses, in fact all of the businesses mostly have a downfall. And businesses in India especially should be looking at sustenance rather than profit, because it's not going to happen anytime soon. So we're back to where we started. If we talk about myself, I started as an entrepreneur a year back. I was in a very comfortable position. But if I look at myself right now, another year is going to be very challenging for me, just to support what I started and what I built. So I think India is in a very difficult situation. Everybody should be able to, everybody should work on themselves in this time to have and secure the job, because a lot of companies in India are going to be cutting jobs very soon. They already are. And so everybody should try to look for an alternative, and they should work on themselves as much as they can right now, because this time is not going to come back, and India is going to be in a very tough position, I think.
As the youth of tomorrow, I hope you don't decide on not having younger Zoyas who will come to Indian Institute of Finance 20 years or 30 years from now, and you put a stop there because of the population. I hope that doesn't happen.
No.
So, but in any case, I would like your inputs on how do you see that governments could work together? They have been trying to work, create facilities for growth and smooth induction of growth. Every country does their job, every government tries to do their best, depends on the leadership. But then how to induce happy living? I know it's not a pill which can be given. Happiness is not something you can take an injection or a pill for, but then they can create frameworks. In your opinion, as a young girl who is going to be tomorrow of the world, how do you see that governments could induce, whether it is UAE or whether it is Indian or US or Germany or Serbia or Russia or China, how do you think as a young girl, what would you like the governments to do to induce happy living?
So firstly, sir, I think the government of India, especially because I have worked in India for 4.5 years of my life, I know how taxing working in a private sector can be. So I think the government should formulate some policies for some changes in the workplace, especially in the private sector. I don't know, I've never really worked in the public sector, but I hear it's much easier than what we do in the private sector. I don't know. But I think the government should also have some policies for the private sector and how they actually manage their employees and the workplace environment. So because as of now, we're seeing a lot of flexible hours and a lot of family provisions and a lot of things. And I think the government should keep it that way. Even in the private sector, they should have some say that the companies should do this, should not do this. They should really have a say in it. And other than that, I think if I talk about UAE, the UAE is very keen on promoting happiness. They have a Minister of State for Happiness. They have a program for happiness and positivity. So I think this is something that should be done in India, because I know India, especially the companies that I have worked in, it was very taxing, and it was very difficult for me at times to cope up, because there was a lot of work pressure and everybody was dealing with that. It was not just me because of low productivity, it was everybody. So I understand that. So I think the government definitely needs to have a Minister of State for Happiness, like in the UAE. And other than that, not just having a ministry, they should also ask the private sector to keep on reporting and measuring the employee happiness. So they should have like an index, and people should actually be awarded, the companies should actually be awarded to have high employee happiness in their company. So I think these are the two things that they can do.
Last two questions before I open the house to others to ask questions. And all those who want to ask questions, kindly raise your hand so that I can open up your videos or you can open up your videos when I open the house for questions, and you can ask questions too. Zoya, two questions. Again, one is on economy, where the various agencies have been reporting a growth rate of 1.9% for India for 2020 and about 7.4% for 2021. That is for January, December, because the US, they look at calendar years. The IMF and World Bank looks at years, not financial years as we do. So, you know, these figures, as an analyst, as an entrepreneur, as a young Indian, do you see them to be optimistic or conservative, given the potential you know in India, the youth, and the leadership we have today?
So I think most of these figures are very conservative. I would not say they're optimistic at all, because I know the kind of hard work that every Indian puts in, and I know that once we actually get back to work at the full force, it's not going to be reduced productivity, because everybody will be trying to save their job, will be doing maximum of what they can. So I think it is a very conservative figure, and I hope and I really think that we will end up seeing more than this. I am pretty sure that we will. So, and yeah, other than that, I think most of it, I think, would be better numbers than these. As an analyst, I would say it would be better than this for sure.
What's your opinion on the leadership?
So I think if I talk about leadership, the handling of the pandemic, I think, was pretty good, pretty well. But I think a lot of issues that need to be addressed in India right now are just not being addressed. And the unlocking of the economy, the unlocking of the country, all of a sudden, I don't think that's a very good idea. And I am really not sure what is going to happen. So other than that, the leadership, I think we're in good hands, mostly. So yeah, I'm very proud of the Delhi leadership. I am really proud of what he is doing with the city. I really am a fan of Kejriwal and the health minister. So I think they're doing well, whatever they can. And yeah.
Perfect. Now, as I said, but I had one more question, which I thought. You see, what people say that life is all about money and power. As a young girl, do you feel the same thing as well?
Not really. I think money is required, definitely, but I really don't feel that money is going to get you everywhere and everything in life. You can't really buy relationships. You can't really do anything if you don't have good quality of relationships with your friends, family. So I think money definitely is a very important part of life. You can't really do anything without money. And power, I think, if you're working in the right direction, after a point in time, you are bound to have power. If you will not have it in 5 years in the corporate, you will have it in 10 years, but you will have power, you will have people reporting to you. So I think that's a very relative concept, but definitely money and power are two things which are not of supreme importance to me. And I know people and a lot of people who I know, they are of the same opinion. Nobody is running after money. Nobody is running after power. A lot of people want to really do something that they want to, and not be forced into going to office where they don't like what they're doing. And so I think money is important. Power is really not that important.
Perfect. And my last question, I'll now open the house after that. All those who want to ask questions can kindly open their videos, and then I will unmute them when we have the questions. Your advice to the youth, and especially the young people who come out of institutions like the IIF, but the youth in general, where we say youth is between the age of 15, 16 to almost about 35. What will be your advice as a young person?
So I think there are just two things. The first thing would be that we do not try to plan your entire life out. So I think we end up putting a lot of time frames on the major events that we want in our life to happen, whether it is career, whether it is getting married, whether it is having a house of our own, having children. So I think we should not really put time frames to all these things, because all of our journeys are different, and we might not end up achieving whatever we've put the time frame at, but we will end up achieving them. And I think if you put time frames to something, it is really disheartening when you don't achieve them, and you really lack the motivation after that to even go for it. So I think especially getting married, and especially career, I think so career is something which would I think it goes differently for everybody. If I look at people who graduated with me in MBA, I look at them. They started out different. They're now doing different. I started out different. They're now doing different. So, and I see a lot of people who are doing better than me, and I did not think they would. So, being very honest. So, I think if you put time frames to something, you end up demotivating yourself, basically. And I think the second thing would be that we should really stay open-minded to the views and opinions of others. It's one person who was really not very open-minded. I used to think, and I had very strong opinions on the world. I used to think that this is right, this is wrong, this is not right. If somebody is doing this, this is not right. But now that I look at it, I feel that everybody has their own right, everybody has their own wrong, and there's a lot of gray in the world, which is not really right, which is not really wrong, a lot of perspective. So I think we should really look at everybody in their own way, and we should give them their space that, yeah, they might be right, we might be wrong. So we should really stay open-minded. Two things, yeah.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. I'll now open the house. I do see Surinder Katpalia, who is one of our advisory board members, who is with us today from Singapore. If he would like to make a comment or make a question, Suri, if you're around, I would request if you can ask up your question or make a comment. I'll unmute you if you can just, you know. Anyone else who would like to ask a question or make a comment here? I see one of our current graduates, Aman Kumar Yadav, who is here also. Would you like to ask your senior about something you want? Okay, then, Zoya, we would be closing the session in another 2 minutes. Thank you for that insight into your life, into your personal life, on the essence of life and growth. You bring in a different perspective, because most of my, as I said, most of my speakers have been people with about 40, 45 years of experience, and they talked about all philosophical stuff. Before I end, I thought I should also ask this, do you see any role of spirituality or meditation or soul consciousness in your life in terms of essence of life and growth?
I think there is a very important place of spirituality. I am really not a very spiritual person, but I think meditation, yoga, a lot of things really help you to know what you are. And I have seen people actually have a lot of difference, reached a lot of difference in the life due to yoga, due to a lot of things. So I think being very aware of self-conscious, being very aware of what you are, is something that we can achieve from yoga, meditation. So I think it's a very important part. I've not really tried it myself. I want to. I will soon. So I think spirituality in itself is, I think it contributes a lot to your growth. It does.
Have you been wearing sari after you left the institute, or you've forgotten how to wear a sari?
I have just worn it once. No, not that. I would wear it right now after some weddings, if I go to some weddings, but not after that. But no, I still know how to wear a sari. Yeah.
You know how to drape a sari.
Thank
you.
I do.
Good. In any case, I would like to brief everybody about what we have in hand for tomorrow and day after, and then we will close up. Aman, do you want to ask a question? I see that you have opened up. Just a second. If you want, I will switch it off. I see Aman here. Just a second. Yes, Aman, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah, ma'am. As a fresher student, I am a student of IAF from the 2022 batch, 1820 batch. Yeah, can you please suggest me what should we do in this pandemic as a fresher student.
Mhm.
Yeah, to
So,
get a
please go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah to get a job. At this time, we see the job market is very difficult to get any job.
Right. So Aman, I think this is the most important time, and this is the only time that you will have. So I think to get a job, firstly, you must have skills. You must have a lot of knowledge. See, because to crack an interview, you need to know everything inside out. And people looking at you, I know, I have seen in job interviews that once an interviewer looks at an interviewee, they can actually judge how much you know, how much you don't. So I think this is the time where you should really brush up your skills, because once you enter as a fresher, everybody is aware that you don't know a lot of things, and they know that you are willing to learn. But the only thing is that you should be very approachable, and you should know at least the basics of everything, because now that you will be entering the job market, it's going to be a tougher time. But we also entered the job in a very tough time. That's all okay. So everybody, because good people are always getting a job no matter what the condition. So if you have knowledge, if you are approachable, if you can be coached, more importantly, I think you will definitely get a good job. It's not a problem.
So in a financial market, ma'am, where should we focus? Like to getting the new skills?
New skills. So I think you should take up courses, free courses that are available online. If you want to do that, you should do a lot of reading on what is happening in the industry, how are different markets, because in an interview they will ask you what is your response, how would you react to this situation. So I think a lot of reading will help you, and a lot of free courses, a lot of everything that you read will help you through the interview. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have to do this whole process of the final year batch and how things move up, the scare which is there, the uncertainty which is there in the minds. Any advice, youth and young people? Some of them are here from different places, different countries, different cities. What could they think of doing? Because you have been through that process not too long back, but recently only, a couple of years back.
So, sir, I think the only thing they can do right now is to work on themselves, learn all the basic concepts, understand them, not learn them basically, because and apply to as many jobs as possible, go to as many interviews just as a demo interview, because not every company that is taking an interview will actually end up hiring you. That's what I have learned, because in my time, after a point in time, I just gave one interview, and that company froze the hiring after a point in time. So that is going to happen a lot, I think, in the future. So take as many interviews as you can, take as many demo interviews as you can, and learn a lot about the environment, because a lot of questions in interviews now are going to be how would you react in this situation, how would you learn to this situation, what's happening in the world. So I think it's basically just brushing up of concepts, knowing what's happening, and being coachable. These are the three things that will help you get a job now. Yeah.
Thank you, Zoya. And then with this, as I said, I will just go with the brief of what we have in hand for tomorrow, and then I'll end the session for today. As you can see, my dear friends, we have the following people lined up. On 5th, I have Shantanu Guare. He's the India editor for an Austrian company, which is a British company before, called the Central European News Agency. And he's earlier worked with Bloomberg, India TV News, Outlook. I've known him for almost 25 years now. He's interviewed me, he's discussed with me, he's been a co-panelist as with me with various forums. Then we have Professor J.D. Agarwal delivering a talk on India's 20 lakh crore economic package on the 5th of June from 2 to 3. Then we have on the 6th, Professor Deepak Vora speaking on trust, a core human value. This is a second round of interview because a lot of people wanted to listen to him or what he spoke. Then we have on the 12th, we have economics of pandemics by me. And then on the 13th, we have Kashmir, the journey resumes. Then on the 19th, I speak on money, wealth, and cryptocurrencies as a webinar. And then on the 20th, it's the Indian viral war, India's secret weapon. Why are we still faring so well as compared to the rest of the world? My dear friends, tomorrow we have Life with Corona. I was just getting a call from Ms. Kiran Bedi's office while we were in the webinar from his office. I hope it's a confirmation which he wanted to confirm, and I'm looking forward to that. But then we have Surinder Katpadia, who was here with us a few seconds back. As I said, he has been our advisory board member. He was the managing director and co-founder of Standard & Poor's ASEAN and South Asia. You know what the Standard & Poor's is. He is a member of the governing body of the United World Colleges of Southeast Asia, independent director at various organizations, and an advisory board member of the Indian Institute of Finance as well. Then we have Professor Deepak Vora also giving his perspective on this, because he's a diplomat, he's worked in different places.